Okay, I'm going to jump straight in and announce the competition winner. If you remember 2 videos ago, I said that somebody who left a comment would win a copy of this. Not the toilet version, if you remember. Not this exact version, but a fresh copy sent out direct from Blowing Bubbles HQ. The person who's won is Keith Ahern. And the reason he has won, and someone will get a chance to win today, by the way, is because what he said is basically what I want to talk about today. Keith basically said what Moyes started to do with the team, results at the end of last season, is a good start. With some hope he can get a good pre-season into the players and we can kick on without buying players. Now, just let me quantify that. So well done, Keith. All you need to do, by the way, is in the link below this is an email address to the editor at Blowing Bubbles magazine. Contact him, give him your address, he'll send you one out, mate. Congratulations. Just to quantify that, though, it's not I don't want to sign any players, by the way. I do want us to sign players. I think we should sign players. But I do think there should be a realistic expectation that we probably won't. Or at least we might not. It's unlikely that we're going to get the massive players that everybody thinks and hopes we'll get. So with that, it feeds into the video I did not too long ago where I said don't expect big change. I think we'll start the season with roughly the same team that we ended the season with. And I sort of want to go at this with a little bit of positivity because I've been very negative, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of negativity around the club at the moment, and I think I dealt with that when I was discussing Leicester and whatnot in the video the other day. But to get away from the owners for a little while and just want to sort of concentrate on David Moyes, and it was actually from this magazine, because I was looking through this magazine. Okay, I've got to think of something to talk about. I'm going to do 4 of these videos, 5 in total, 4 more, and there was this article from George Paris. And the article itself is nothing you haven't heard before. It's Souček and Bowen give us hope for a brighter future. But the more I read it, and the more I read this article, the more I thought, well, George is looking at things very, very differently. Now, George is actually quite lucky because, by the looks of it, he's not been angry at every little link that we have of a player that then gets taken away from us. We throw our arms in the air when there's frustration that we've not signed this player or that player. But actually, I think if you're not involved, if you're not watching these videos every day, if you're not on social media, if you're not on a forum, people seem to be a lot more positive. And I'll give you a good example. I did a bit of plumbing work for somebody 2 or 3 years ago. Lives relatively locally. Turns out he was a West Ham fan. Now, I think he would openly say he is not the biggest West Ham fan in the world. He is not constantly refreshing every page on the internet to get the latest news. He goes to 3 or 4 games a season, but he's supported West Ham for the best part of 45 years. So anyway, I saw him the other day. I bumped into him. We exchanged the usual pleasantries. And he said, how's everything going? I said, yeah. He said West Ham, and he said, you plan on going when it all starts up again? And we had a sort of little vague conversation about West Ham. And he said, yeah, looking pretty good, isn't it? We finished the season really well. Yeah, looking good for next season. Anyway, that was it. And we finished the conversation. I thought, well, he's a bit like George Paris. And I think not soured by expectation. So I just sort of wanted to look at it a little bit and look at it from that perspective. And I don't want to run through the whole team in detail again because, number one, I'm doing that individually for players anyway, and number two, I've already discussed the shape of the team next season. But just to brush on something I mentioned before, if we do only change one position, and at this point Ajeti's been sold to Celtic, I saw him doing keepy uppies in a green and white striped shirt, so I can only assume the transfer has gone through. Let's just assume for a second that we sign one player, one fullback, and it sorts out one position. We inherently have the same team, but with one additional fullback, Ben Johnson playing on the other side, and Diangana in the team. Diangana left, Bowen right, Haller or Antonio down the middle. It ain't a bad team. And whilst I don't wholeheartedly agree with what Keith said about us look forward to not buying players, I don't think Keith was saying let's not buy any players. I think he was saying we can do all right if we don't. Well, that's an interesting one. Can we? Can we do all right if we don't buy any players? Well, it sounds ridiculous to suggest such a thing, right? But you look at it and you look at David Moyes, and it might just be possible. He's got the moniker Dithering Dave. Actually, I think in January he was decisive Dave, really. Not dithering at all. But if the dithering is getting the acquisition of a player absolutely right, then possibly that's no bad thing. I've said a lot of times recently that West Ham can't afford to get a £45 million signing wrong. West Ham can't afford to get a £35 million signing wrong. Of course, I'm talking about Haller and Anderson here. But we just can't afford to do those things. We're not a rich enough football club to do that. So maybe going in all guns blazing, maybe going in and making rash decisions, impulsive decisions, is not the right thing to do. Maybe taking your time, really considering whether a player's the right fit for West Ham is absolutely the right thing to do. I don't know if that's exactly what's happening at the moment, but I would suggest that it's no bad thing. It's no bad thing for David Moyes to have a good look, and if he's only got one player, to take his time and bring in that right guy. But actually, he's got form for this, and in many respects, he shouldn't have got the Man United job. He actually had no credentials for getting a Man United job. But he has all the credentials for doing the job that is on offer at the moment. I say on offer. It's the job that he has. So I just realised his camera's tilting a little bit. I'm going to try and get away with it, but I've got a feeling the camera's going to go. If it goes, it goes. What more can we say? This is risky. It's a risky video really now, isn't it? See, now I'm thinking whether the video's going to go. I've got to try and remember what I'm talking about. But I do remember what I was talking about. It was David Moyes and him not really having the credentials for the Man United job, but he's got the credentials for ours. Because he's been through all this at Everton with Bill Kenwright, of having no money. And the other thing that happened under Bill Kenwright, before he started, before they stabilised, and then a few seasons in, maybe 6 or 7 seasons in, and he ain't going to get that sort of time at West Ham, by the way, he was then able to start buying players. But before that, he had to really, really pick and choose. But the other thing he did was he ran that club from top to bottom. Obviously, Kenwright was chairman, yes, absolutely. But aside from that, I read numerous interviews. I heard him talking. Bill Kenwright, for those of you who don't know, he's in the theatre business. All those shows up in London. Well, there's no Phantom of the Opera anymore, but Phantom of the Opera, Starlight Express, all that sort of thing. That's what Bill Kenwright does. He's in musical theatre. So he obviously loves Everton. He's a big Everton fan, and obviously loved Everton enough to buy Everton, and he's still the chairman to this day. But he didn't get involved in the football side of things. He left that all to David Moyes. David Moyes actually pretty much decided who was going in what position and where. The point of the matter is, the scouts were there because of David Moyes, and David Moyes built his own infrastructure, and I don't think in the early days there was an awful lot going on at that club. There wasn't some director of football looking over his shoulder, another guy dealing just with recruitment, and all these sort of layers of middle management that a lot of these other clubs have got. Now, I'm not saying it's a good thing that West Ham don't have that. I'm just saying, in fact, it's crap. Only the other day I said the model that Leicester have with all their training ground, all their departments and all these sort of things, and Southampton do it and lots and lots of clubs do it, that is the way to go. But if you accept that we don't have that, if you absolutely accept that these things that West Ham don't have, so who can we have in place that is used to basically having to run the club on his own because there is no support network, then David Moyes is actually not a bad name for the... It's not a bad name to throw into the ring. Hat, name, ring, hat. Hat, name to pick out a hat. Hat to throw in the ring. I don't know. Rings, hats, David Moyes. You know what I'm saying. He has got history of doing that. Far more than he was ever going to have to suggest he could take Alex Ferguson's job. There was nothing in his record to suggest that he could take over a club in Spain and propel them up the table. No. What he does have a history of is taking a club... Everton fans disagree because they've won league titles and so on and so forth. But in terms of crowd sizes, in terms of certain recent lack of success, a similar sized club in West Ham and Everton, and taking them on and stabilising them with next to no money and no infrastructure around him. Well, David Moyes, your early Everton is West Ham now. I do wonder, bearing in mind how strongly we finished the season, bearing in mind, whilst we do want to be pessimistic, and I wonder if as fans we are too pessimistic. Which gets to my point, and my point about the guy I did the plumbing work for, and my point about George Paris, is actually watching these videos. You better click off now, or going on social media, or just getting involved in West Ham media, constantly refreshing your news on West Ham. Is it actually any good for you? Possibly not. Now look, all the evidence suggests we probably will struggle again next season, but let's be fair. Let's be absolutely fair here. West Ham have always struggled. Always. Not just in recent years, but always struggled. We had a little bit, we had a nice time with Tony Tony Cottee and McAvenny. Once we finished third. Aside from that, we had a little run in the cup with Alan Pardew. There ain't a lot. There ain't a lot. Last season at Upton Park, very, very little. Very little in the 40 odd years that I've been watching West Ham. There ain't been an awful lot to cheer about, is what I'm saying. So with that in mind, are we pessimistic? I think we are. And I think there's room for some optimism. When I say optimism, it means not constantly getting our bottom smacked every single week. I do think we have the makings of a good team. I do think if I say good team, a fair team. I'm questioning myself as we're going through this. I think if we can make Declan Rice the captain, I think if we can have that stability in that central midfield position that we seem to have towards the end, I think if you can keep playing, there's lots of ifs, but all football teams are ifs. Jared Bowen stays fit. We can sort out one of the fullback positions. Ogbonna remains in the same form we did. Antonio. Then actually, I think there's cause to believe maybe that we won't necessarily struggle next season. I just wonder how easy it is for us to go into the season really, really pessimistic because we didn't sign Anthony Robinson or this, that and the other. And actually, you know what? And we do need a fullback, granted, but I wonder how bad we really are. And I wonder if we do ourselves any favours. And I just looked at that article there and then blowing bubbles. And by the way, if you want to get this, as I say, this isn't the toilet version. So leave your comments below. The best comment below, or the one I pick out or whatever, I might just randomly scroll down. I don't know. I'm making no promises. You'll get one of these sent out to you. If you don't want to wait to get one sent out to you, you want to buy one, you don't even have to buy it, but just click on the website, have a little look around, see what you think. It's West Ham Magazine, run by West Ham fans, and loads of good content in there. But what I'm saying is, I'm a little bit jealous of the fella I did the plumbing for. I'm a little bit jealous of George Paris, because actually, they're looking forward to next season. And I do wonder about this. Are they totally and utterly mad for doing so?